Well, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Mello signing in, and today people, we're going to be answering the question, did the 4 Kage in the Boruto era train for a supposed threat beyond Kaguya? Did they train for 10 plus years for this new mysterious enemy? Now, I'm going to be excluding Naruto from this analysis because I want to do a separate video. Did Naruto and Sasuke train for a supposed Otsutsuki threat beyond Kaguya? So we'll be doing that one a little bit later. Now, in order to answer this question, we're going to have to rewind a little bit. Our journey is going to take us back to Boruto episode 24. Now, we are using the anime for our analysis, and I think these screenshots is going to take us where we need to go. Now, let's take a look at this. We do know that a 5 Kage summit was convened just before the Chunin exams, and Naruto is explaining to the remaining 4 Kage. And now, who's in this room? As you can see, we do have the 5 Kage, but also Shikamaru, Nara, and Sai. Now, Naruto says, Danzo Shimura, who created the New Way incident, and Shin Uchiha, whom I battled. A common factor that keeps popping up in the materials that they left behind is the description of a parallel dimension. Now, we have an understanding that this is the parallel dimension that Sasuke has been investigating. It's more like parallel dimensions, basically Kaguya's dimensions. Now, Naruto goes on to say, Kaguya, the one Sasuke and I sealed back then, had a scary, powerful army behind her. And then here, obviously, this is going to be a visual representation of said army. We're talking about the White Zetsu. Naruto continues with, Kaguya herself was powerful enough. But the fact that she had a White Zetsu army behind her really worried us. Now, in response to this, the Raikage, who asks excellent questions throughout this entire exchange, he says, wasn't the White Zetsu army basically for the allied shinobi forces, because she would be at a disadvantage if she went up against the ninja world without them? Now, this would give us our first indicator about the Kage's lack of knowledge as it pertains to why Kaguya formed the White Zetsu army. Now, Naruto goes on to say, we discovered that the White Zetsu were created way before we shinobi were born into this world. Naruto continues by saying, intel we've gathered so far hints that in time, in existence, even more frightening than Kaguya will appear in this world. And here you can see Gaara say, alongside the Raikage, what? Nani? Right? So, if we go back a little bit, the information that they've gathered thus far hints at an existence even more frightening than Kaguya, right? And of course, the Kage do not know about this so-called existence beyond Kaguya. They're surprised. What? They're questioning this, like, what do you mean? So then we get to the Raikage's second excellent question. He then goes on to say, and the White Zetsu army is for that purpose, right? And what does he mean by that? Well, the purpose of Kaguya fighting off an existence more frightening than herself. Now, I do plan to make a video answering the question, this supposed threat beyond Kaguya, was it actually confirmed to be a fact? Or was it just an assumption that Naruto and Sasuke, and by extension Konoha, arrived at with no fact-based evidence? So that's a video for another day. But I'm showing this because they're still questioning what the White Zetsu would be for. However, I'm not going to show you what happens next because I think it kind of gives away the video I just mentioned. Now, Gaara then says, and you investigated something so important like this behind our backs, question mark. You're pretty crafty. And then Shikamaru says, and I've looked up both translations in the subbed and the dubbed. Essentially what he's saying, it was my plan to keep this quiet until we obtain concrete proof, right? Or in the dub, he says real evidence or real proof. This is not to be mistaken for fact-based evidence. He just wanted something tangible to take to the Kage. The Raikage then goes on to ask his third good question of this entire exchange. How much time do we have until this new enemy appears? And Sai replies by saying, we haven't been able to pin that down. A few months or years, maybe more. The Mizukage then goes on to say, how do we explain this to our people? And then they express a concern about the next generation being able to take the torch from them if the Otsutsuki threat does arrive beyond them, right, beyond their lifetime. The generation below us is frankly not up to par. Now, I'm showing you guys all of this because it paints a very clear and definitive picture that the 4 Kage were not prepping for a threat beyond Kaguya in between Naruto Shippuden and the start of the Boruto era. So that would be a decade plus. There was no preparation. they weren't prepping their people because they're trying to figure out how they can explain this new information that's been disseminated to them to their people. And of course, they weren't prepping the next generation to combat against a threat in which they did not know time of arrival. They just didn't know. They couldn't pin it down. And that's how you end up here with the Kage saying the generation below us is frankly not up to par because they have not been training them for a threat beyond Kaguya, so of course they won't be up to par. The Kage echoes this sentiment. The lack of real skills among the young is a deep concern for every village. Every village. So no one's been training the next generation to combat against a supposed threat beyond Kaguya. The Kage then goes on to say, but there's no guarantee that the next generation can win. All of this is painting a very clear picture. The four Kage were not prepped. They weren't knowledgeable about a supposed threat beyond Kaguya. Therefore, they didn't train for something they didn't think existed or knew existed rather. And of course, by extension, they couldn't explain it to their people, as this panel says. And of course, by extension, the next generation weren't prepped to be able to contend against an enemy in which they didn't know the time of arrival. So when we're asked the question, in the anime, did the four Kage, and of course that's excluding Naruto, the four Kage during the Boruto era, train and prep for a supposed threat beyond Kaguya in between the end of Shippuden and the start of the Boruto era, 10 plus years? The answer is a clear and definitive no. Now, impressively enough, the four Kage were still able to contend somewhat with base Momoshiki and of course Kinshiki Otsutsuki. So much so that Shochiro, the Mizukage, who wasn't training for this, was able to dodge perceived attacks from one Kinshiki Otsutsuki. And of course the Kage, who wasn't training or prepping for this, was able to launch an attack at Kinshiki, hitting him in the abdomen, sending him flying with a single punch. Shochiro was also able to pin Kinshiki down, and of course, the Kage used a sealing technique to hold him down, literally telling Sasuke, leave this one to us. Not bad for people who weren't prepping for these gods that can split worlds and destroy stars, supposedly. I'll be making a video talking about the actual scaling of the Otsutsuki and how I believe it should be way lower than people are saying it is, which is going to make the scaling in the Boruto era make a whole lot more sense for people. So instead of upscaling the Kage, you can put them where they actually belong, but that's a video for another day. But yeah, if you guys have any more topics, any more questions, any ideas about videos like this that you would like me to make, any questions you would like me to answer, then feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, and also give me your thoughts about this topic. Am I right? Am I wrong? Are there other angles that you guys have found and you want to bring that to my attention? Let me know down below. With that being said, I appreciate your support as always. Please like, subscribe, and share the content. It helps the channel grow. And also, I'll think about more topics like this because I think there's a lot of misconceptions in our community, and I definitely want to provide clarity, shine a little bit of light on these things. I've done the work, I've done the research. This is less my opinion and more the facts of the matter. Right, so I have a lot of these videos that I want to do so that we can all just be clear and concise about what's happening in the series. With that being said, I am your humble host, Mello, signing out. I'll catch you guys in the next one, but remember, never stop dreaming. Later.